Hey guys, welcome to Keep on Pushing Stories, where we tell you real life stories of inspiration and motivation because we want to get you going, inspire you, motivate you to live your absolute best life. And I'm so excited, man, to welcome Jay Fantom to Keep on Pushing Stories. Jay, welcome.
Devon, thank you, my man, for including me in your amazing podcast and allowing me to share my story, my Keep on Pushing story. I can't wait, man.
All right, man, that's good. It's great to have you, man, from down under, no, of all the places. That's awesome. But first of all, Jay, I'm curious, tell us what it is that you do and how you serve and bring value to your clients.
Okay, so basically, I am a podcaster, entrepreneur. I like helping people, like coaching them. I like teaching. I like all that sort of stuff. But mainly, I try and serve by sharing people's stories on my podcast and inspiring, motivating, educating, challenging as many people as I possibly can to realize their own worth and their own value through stories, whether it's my own or even yours, Devon. You've come on my podcast and shared your story. So I just try and serve that way as best I can by unboxing those sort of stories and then putting them out there to the world so people can actually listen to them.
Awesome. I love that. So how do people find you? Where do they find your podcast? And if they want to connect with you directly, how do they do that?
They're able to find me anywhere on Instagram or Facebook. You can just search up either the Storybox podcast on Facebook. There's a actual group and there's also a page, or you can go on Instagram, search up the Storybox podcast. Or they can find me, like all my handles are in basically the Storybox podcast page as well under host and founder. It's DJ _ Director J. That was my high school nickname. It was on the back of my jersey, so why not keep it as my Instagram handle? Because I'm also a filmmaker too, so that's another added benefit. But they can also, if they want, they can email me, the storyboxpodcast@gmail.com. That's in the Instagram. You can just click that and send an email if you want. You can also find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the world's #1 podcast platform, which is iHeartRadio, YouTube, even. We're basically everywhere, man. Hard to miss us.
All right, awesome. I'm glad to hear that, man. So, hey, dude, let's get serious here now. I want to know your Keep on Pushing story. I want to know of a time when you had to overcome a significant challenge or a time when you had to, push yourself out of your comfort zone to go learn something new to take your game to the next level. So let's have it.
Okay, man. So I've actually been thinking about this question for quite some time now since you asked me the not that long ago, because my entire life literally is about moving forward, keep on pushing. Like if I was to share even a little bit of my backstory, I think some of your audience would be like, how is this guy still walking and still alive? Because I've been through the absolute ringer. I shouldn't actually be alive. I've been through 3 near-death experiences with my health. I can go into little bits and pieces of those, but really one story that I do want to share with you, it happened in 2018, and I ended up contracting meningitis, meningococcal. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, there's type A and there's type B. So type A of meningitis is the bacterial one. That's the one where you lose limbs and you can potentially, or you can actually, there's a high chance of you dying from it. If you get type B, which is viral, which it's not as serious, but it can turn into type A, which is then it becomes deadly. But type B is still quite serious. There's a 50% chance of you actually dying or staying alive, and then even worse. So one morning I get up, just, regular morning. I had a little bit of a headache, didn't think too much of it, did my workout, went for about an hour-long run, get to the workout station, and my head's just spinning. My head is just like absolutely throbbing. And I'm like, this isn't normal. But me with pain, I've been through a lot of it, so I don't really care too much about it. I just put it to the side and think I'm going to push forward. And yeah, I just did my 30-minute bodyweight workout, get back home, and I'm not feeling too good at all. I'm like I'm losing balance. This has never happened to me before. So I'm sort of getting a little bit nervous. But once again, I put the pain to the side and push forward. I'm like, I'm not going to allow pain to really dictate what's going to happen today. I cooked the dinner for the family. And then I think it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm passed out on the couch. And that's when my employer is calling me, asking me where I am. And I'm like, oh, I'm on the couch. I've got a throbbing headache. I can't actually move. And that was the point where I actually started to become blind. Like I couldn't see. If I opened my eyes, it would hurt to actually see anything really, like sensitivity to light. So I ended up getting up, going to my room, turning off all the lights, shutting the blinds, basically getting under my covers where it was super dark, because any form of light would just be agonizing. And by about 3:30, 4 o'clock, my mum gets home and she finds me on my bed fast asleep. And she's like, is everything okay? And I was like, no, it wasn't really compos mentis. And she's like, okay, I need to take you to the doctor. So for um, long story short, she ended up taking me to the doctor. I still couldn't see. She had to guide me so I wouldn't fall over and so that I wouldn't bump into things. I couldn't see anybody, but I could hear everything that was going on. And I heard people's voices. And literally, man, this is really just God and just helping me out. Like, because the receptionist was super lovely. She got me in straight away. She saw I was in a bad state. She takes me to the back of the doctor's office. I lie on the bed, and that's when, not 5 minutes later, a lovely doctor walks in. She checks me out, and all my symptoms was the signs of meningitis. But they can't really tell if you have meningitis. The only way to tell that is by doing one particular thing, which I'll get into in a moment. The doctor said, so you got two options. You can either, we can call an ambulance, you can go via ambulance, or you can, mum can drive you to the hospital. So mum has decided, okay, we're not that far from the hospital, let's drive. And so we get to the hospital, and here's another miracle, right? I didn't even sit down for 3 minutes before I was ushered in by the nurses to the triage section, where they checked me over. I didn't see, I was like sitting in a chair because there's no beds, but still I was in there waiting to see a doctor. The doctor actually comes, he looks at me. He seemed like a very kind man, but he's like, you have all the symptoms of meningitis, but the only way to tell, like I was saying before, is to do a lumbar puncture, which has its own set of complications to it as well. So for those of you who don't know what a lumbar puncture is, it's basically they stick a needle about that long. If you're watching the video, it's quite long, in your spinal cord. You're awake for it. They have to drain the spinal fluid, which, fun fact, looks like kind of silver mercury, which is pretty cool, I thought at least. And basically, I'm sitting there thinking, all right, I don't want to do that. I'm sick and tired of pain. I'm sick and tired of why me? You know, like I just, in that moment, man, I was blind. I couldn't see. I was in a lot of pain and agony. My body was literally shutting itself down. I didn't want to move. I was in a bad way, but all I was thinking was, I want to end it. I just want this pain to be done with. But at that time, I was thinking that here's something amazing. A young lady was wheeled in on a hospital bed. She was hysterical. She was crying. She was in a bad way. I could just hear it. And she's wheeled in beside me, and her boyfriend has followed in right after her and sat right beside me. I've heard the story. She's actually tried to commit suicide, and her mother, you know, it's not a very good situation at all. And her boyfriend, who's only 16 years old, he walks in, he's working full time, he's living by himself, he's taking care of this girl. He doesn't know if she's actually going to live or not, because she's always mentally not with it, and she's committing suicide. And here I am, you know, I've got a stable home, I've got everything that I need. I'm not working full time to support myself or my girlfriend or anything like that. I was in the grand scheme of things, when I put things into perspective right there, I'm like, okay, you have nothing to complain about. You need to get over yourself right now. You need to actually get through this. You need to push on, because there's always going to be something better for you right next, Jay. And I remember sitting there and I turned and I look. My eyes are closed. You probably thought I was weird, but I turned and looked to him and I said to him, "Thank you. Everything's going to be okay." And I just, he just said, "I know." 16-year-old knew that everything was going to be okay. And here I am. I'm 22, almost 23. It just put life really ultimately into perspective for me, man. And when the doctor ended up coming, because I was wrestling with the fact that I didn't want to do this lumbar puncture because there was also going to be complications. There was a 50% chance of me either dying or being seriously paralyzed if he got the wrong nerve. And he's flying blind. He can't actually see. And another thing he told me, he's like, "I've only done one other lumbar puncture." So
Not very reassuring.
not very reassuring at all. So I'm like, okay, I don't know. It took me 4 hours to really decide to actually do the lumbar puncture. And it was at midnight. I have it done and I felt everything. Felt the needle go through. It's a thick
So there's
needle.
no anesthesia.
There's a local anesthetic they put in another needle, but that needle's got to go halfway through your spine anyway. So you got to feel the needle going through. And then after that, there's no anesthetic. So you feel everything after that, because you've got to be able to feel this sharp pain right in the middle of your spine. If you feel that sharp pain, that means he's actually gotten the right nerve. But if you don't feel it, it means that you're paralyzed. So thank God I actually felt the
pain was really good to you then.
Oh, it was.
So which did you end up with, A or B?
I ended up with type B, which is the viral, but I wasn't at risk I was at high risk of getting type A. So they needed to monitor me overnight and the days leading up to it. So I ended up being in hospital for 2 days after that. They were just monitoring me. But for 4 days, man, I was blind. I couldn't see.
Yeah.
And I share this story because it's important for pretty much anyone that is listening to really understand that whenever you're going through pain, pain is going to be inevitable. The choice that you have in that moment of confronting pain is, are you going to push on and be persistent at overcoming it, despite that it's going to be hard? Or are you going to, like I had in one particular moment, a defeatist mentality and just want everything to be over and done with? And I made the choice after, I spoke with that young person to move on, to push forward.
How long did it take you to get better?
It took me 2 weeks to fully recover. But even then, I was still, I still needed to be very careful. So getting back to my 100 complete self was about a month. But I started getting my sight back at the end of the 5th day and started opening my eyes again. The sensitivity to light was getting a bit better. So really, that story is just one of the many that I can share, and towards keep on pushing. And this is really, I didn't know it at the time, but this is where my mentality of being persistent to remain consistent came from. It's the same thing with continuing to push, right? You've got to be persistent at it. My version of true success is being persistent every single day at every aspect of your life. Doesn't matter what it is.
Is that the biggest lesson you took away from that experience?
The biggest lesson that I took away from it is whenever you're blind, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but you see life very differently. Life is so much more profound. I spent 4 days not being able to see things around me, but I could see so much more. I was able to get a new perspective on gratitude, on the things that really, really mattered in my life. And at that point in my life, I didn't share in the beginning, I was sort of coasting. I was sort of not really going anywhere. I was walking away from everything that I was scared. I was nervous. I had just got into a relationship at that time, and I put all of my energy, all of my dreams, hopes, and ambitions into this relationship. And, you know, when I was in that moment, I don't know if you're a believer of God, but I am. And I just really felt God's presence in that moment saying, "Where are you going, Jay? Where are you going?" And I was just like, "Well, I don't know. I want to go here, but I feel like you're wanting me to go here." You know, and even in that entire situation, the lesson that I garnered from it was never give up, always keep pushing, always be persistent, because if you don't, you never know what's going to become of it. And if I had given up, I wouldn't be doing what I am today. I wouldn't be able to speak to you. I wouldn't have been able to do any of the things that I am doing today because I gave up. So a lot of people give up too early. When the tough things come in their life, they give up because they don't see the other side. Even if you can't see the other side, keep on going. Don't stop. Be persistent. You're going to face all the obstacles in life. You're going to face all the pain. It's going to happen, guaranteed. But when you do face it with optimism, face it with positivity, because now you can say to yourself, "Hey, look, I'm not going to allow this obstacle in my life to get me down. I'm going to push through it. And let me show you, let me prove why I can do it. If I've conquered one thing, what's to stop me from conquering another thing?" So it is possible, and I'm a living testament that it is.
Indeed, indeed. A very powerful testimony, Jay. Thank you for sharing that story. I know that this is going to benefit lots of people, because so many people, you know, struggle not just with, you know, a health crisis, but financial crisis and all kinds of other crises. And they get to that point sometimes when they feel like it's the end of the world and it couldn't get any worse. And, you know, you fortunately had, you know, a young lady who comes in who was in a worse mental state than you, and reminded you that, you know, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. And so the idea of, you know, persistence and being consistent and just not giving up, you know, served you well, and it is going to serve all of us well. So thank you so much for sharing that.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. And I hope that it really helps someone out there that might be struggling right now. Life's not that bad. It really isn't. Life ultimately will be okay.
Hey guys, if you benefited from this, if you were inspired by it, make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and hit that notification bell so you can get more powerful videos like this as soon as we post them. And most importantly, or just as importantly, make sure you share it. Don't keep it. Your friends want to be inspired as well, man, so don't keep it. Share it. As always, keep on pushing.